What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Game Junction Podcast, episode 67. We had a ton of news this week. It's been absolutely insane. Literally unreal the amount of news that we've had. So CES just ended, but on top of that, we had stuff that started all the way from Sunday after we ended the podcast. Then I saw news immediately after. It's just been going on all week. Just absolute insanity. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to the show and get started.
Game Junction Podcast. The Game Junction Podcast.
Welcome to the Game Junction Podcast.
We'll be discussing all the hottest gaming news and pop culture news this week, as long as all the hot topics being discussed right now. So stay tuned. Here's what we got to say, and let's go into it. All right, let's get started with all this insanity. How's it going, Kurgle?
Good tonight, and I apologize for my voice. I am a little bit sick, but I'm super excited to talk tonight about the news we had over the past week. Some really impactful stuff in the gaming space. So yeah, we're gonna dive into a couple of different topics and see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know where to start with this week. So I guess first of all, did you check anything out with CES? See any of the craziness happening there?
There's definitely a ton of stuff on CES that is super exciting, and the main thing, definitely and obviously front and center, is going to be the AI integration with AI into video games. I don't know if you read about this, but there is a mod that's been made, like I believe like even half a year ago, that uses AI for Skyrim VR.
Yes.
Mod. And it basically expands on the dialogue you can have with NPCs, and it just makes the game feel more alive and less static. I am kind of split on it, but we can kind of dive into that later on. We don't have to go into it right away. But definitely a lot of stuff that's going to impact the gaming studios immensely.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, one of the big things. So AI was the key point, I feel like, of CES this year. It seemed like there was some sort of AI integration from. I checked everything because I just like tech in general. So like not even just the gaming space. I was checking out a little bit of everything, and there was some sort of AI integration into everything. I mean, you're talking home stuff from like sweepers and vacuums and dishwashers to just everything. Bathtubs, there was some sort of AI integration into some bathtub. So like not even just the gaming space, I was checking out a little bit of everything. I mean, just absolute craziness. And there was some. So
it's taken over.
It really is, yeah. And did you see AI Mario? That's the big deal there.
I did not actually.
Oh god, you gotta look up AI Mario. Like, look it up right now. We can talk about it, come back around to it, but if you just see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'll give a little description on it. I don't want to spoil too much. But essentially, there was Target partnered with a company called Age Tech, and this is not an official Nintendo thing. In their little AI cubicle, it's like a giant box, essentially, like a hologram box, and it's all AI powered.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, and essentially Mario was being asked questions and like some weird stuff, but one of the people asked, "Where can I buy your game?" And they said, "You can buy my game at Target." But his voice, the AI voice, Chris Pratt crap about the voice. This is terrible. This is like worse than Super Mario Brothers Super Show and all the YouTube poops back in the day. Like, it was bad. So that was crazy.
They tried. I just looked at it. It is cursed. But I see the idea behind it. Although, you see, this is where we get into like how much do I like any of this stuff, because I read about a lot of. We have other news that basically cover this, and essentially, SAG-AFTRA, which is the union for actors, basically approved voice acting with AI. Now, there's a little caveat. Basically, if you are well established, whatever. You can essentially license your voice. You don't have to do the actual work, and you just pretty much collect royalties. And this is where it's like, how ethical is this? You know, the voice actors that are not as prominent in the space basically probably are gonna lose a bunch of their traction, a bunch of their jobs.
Yeah.
Because, you know, one voice actor that everybody is looking for can now work 7 different projects at a time. And I think that sucks. I think it really, really sucks. I think it's going to bring less authenticity to video games and less emotion, which I really appreciate. And especially the AAA titles where there's full motion cap, there's full voice acting, just the immersion, right? Like watching a box office like great movie.
Yeah.
Right. That's how I like to play my video games. I like to be immersed. I like to fully kind of involve myself into this video game and kind of live as the main character.
Yep.
And I don't know, what are your thoughts about it? I think it's such a gray area.
Yeah, I think it sucks too, man, because I'm a fan of the arts, so I'm doing a little voice acting myself. It's a path I kind of want to go down and dabble a little bit with, so I've done some voiceover work, and I'm just a fan of the arts. I love the expression and real-life human aspect to all of this stuff, and I hate that's probably going to go away, and I wonder how many people, current voice actors are on board with such a thing. I've heard a few on one side and mostly on the side against it, but I have seen a few with the discussion on Twitter of, hey, this could actually be good because I could bring in revenue, multiple different places, and it consistently come in by just giving my voice out there, essentially.
But you run into a slippery slope of like, how much are they going to pay for you? If you're just going to be not doing work, essentially all they're using is your likeness, right? So if you have a bunch of like example material, it is, I don't know, it's such a slippery slope. And also I feel like the voice actors that would say something like that, like oh, I think this is great, are actually voice actors that are not great voice actors, that are not getting super immersed into their roles. They're just doing it because maybe somebody told them they have a good voice, they started, and they have a good career out of it. So sure, maybe somebody that's pretty big in the space will be like, oh, I can just sit on my ass, rent my voice out, and I'm good. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a net positive on the gaming space. I'm excited, however, for the NPCs. I think there is great deal of benefits for, open world RPGs are going to be booming with this. Yep. Because you can make a world that's much more immersive, that reacts to your choices much better, right? Maybe a project like Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't take 8 years or 10 years. It takes like 5 years. Yeah, which is massive because we get more gains, but then you get into the, if it's not as authentic, how much are you going to care about it? It's just, it's just like one thing after another chains onto these decisions that are being made. And you almost feel for like painters and, graphics designers that have been heavily impacted by AI, and now it's invading the rest of the spaces. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's a bit of a bummer. It just kind of sucks, man. It really does. It sucks for the people. I think it's going to suck for the industry. I think it's going to suck for the gamers because we're going to have a bunch of NPCs and characters with no emotion or don't portray real human emotion. So I think it sucks. It's dumb. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be one of those guys that, just sits here and nags about it. It's going to happen. If it's going to happen with everything else, it's going to happen with stuff like that. And it's going to end up being the case for, film actors too. Where, we've already seen works of, what's the guy's name from Fast and Furious, where they brought,
Walker?
yeah. So like they did all that crazy stuff with him. I know his brother ended up playing him for part of it or something, but
yeah,
the first one they brought him back as like AI or something, right? Is that right?
I
feel
don't
like-
remember exactly.
Or CGI?
If
CGI, but
well, yeah, I'm sure it was CGI, but I think it was CGI work on his brother's likeness.
Okay.
So I might be wrong though. So if you guys know, just let us know in the comments. But yeah, I think it's just so annoying. It's
it's dumb. I mean, legitimately, it's really dumb. And you know what else is dumb? I'll tell you what else is dumb. All these video game layoffs. That's what's dumb.
yes, let's talk about that. That's a rough one as well.
Yeah, so I went immediately. What was this? This must have been Monday. I first saw about the Unity layoffs. So obviously, you know, we're at the end of the week, and since then, a bunch of other ones have popped up. But the first big one was Unity, which is still the biggest one. 1,800 jobs lost, 25% of their staff gone. Twitch, I know I've got that in the notes here somewhere, but I do remember 35% of their staff, 500 employees, gone. And also that was a huge fiasco with the Twitch stuff, because the stuff said to them was pretty wild. It was unreal. Like, they had to be out of like their system. They couldn't have access to anything. It was like 24 hours. They had to be gone, like done with everything. Yeah, I mean, and I did a whole video talking about this too on YouTube, because I just thought it was crazy. But at the same time, I am not even the least bit shocked. So we also had like Bossa Nova Studios laid off a bunch of people, and then the studio that did Doom VR, I'm trying to remember the name, Architect, I believe it is, also laid off people. And they're big in the VR space. They've done a bunch of VR games. That's like their whole studio. So that's four.
So do you think this is actually companies not doing well, or do you think it's companies utilizing AI and trying to just cut corners now?
I think it's multiple things. I think you hit it on the head there with AI and cutting corners. I believe that. I also think that this has a lot to do with companies losing money on these big titles that they're putting all this crazy money into. Multi-millions of dollars or $1 billion into games that flop, or putting all their eggs in the basket with games of a service like we talked about last week. I fully believe that 2020, with all that happening and stuff getting popular, they're like, oh, okay, let's bank on this. Let's go hard on it. And they went hard on it and lost a lot of money. I mean, Godfall, for instance.
But that's what happens with the AAA gaming studios becoming more of a profit machine compared to being a gaming development company. And I'm seeing it more and more with Bethesda now, and beating the dead horse again every episode. But talk about Todd Howard being overhyping and doing this and that. I don't know. It pains me to see it, and I bet you anything Bethesda's gonna be next. I don't believe that they're gonna be doing well with Starfield, and I'm sure it's their big big success. But I'm not gonna be surprised, especially with the way that that AI mod was done for Skyrim. They're definitely gonna tap into that, and they're gonna utilize it, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Graphics Gear said here, he said, games are getting even more complex with each generation. The number of human work hours to make a AAA game will become too great and too expensive. AI and procedural generation will be a necessity. We are in a tech recession. Until the feds lower the interest rates, you will continue to see layoffs in the tech sector to shed all the pandemic blow. And I apologize, it's my first day of wearing contacts, and I'm still awfully blurry and adjusting. So if I blink a lot and my eyes are red, that's why I'm trying to adjust to it.
I think we'll let you slide for this episode.
But no, I mean, yeah, he hit on the head there. Like, I think AI has a lot to do with it. They want to save money and cut corners. And also, they don't need these people, so let's let them go. And also, hey, we're losing a bunch of money over here. We're investing all this money into these AAA games that we spend $500 million on, when realistically, most gamers don't care about that, what they're doing with games to spend that much money. GTA 6 is maybe a different example. You know, that's like a separate thing, because it is, you know, one of the biggest games of all time, GTA 5, and one of the biggest franchises. So, like, that's going to do well. And I think they probably know what they're doing there, except some of the weird things we're hearing about it. But these companies are dumping this money into games that they have no idea is going to do well, and they think 100% in their head that, hey, this game's as a service game, this online only game is going to kill it because people love first person shooters that are online. People love battle royale games. People love, you know.
Yeah.
And Godfall is a big example. I forget what the number was, but it was something like $50 million on that game. That was an unknown IP. It was a new IP. That was unnecessary, and it shut down in the first year it launched. That was a PS5 launch title, and it's already shut down. So, I mean, yeah.
That's what I mean. You can just take the last 10 years, and you can just see how passion left the industry for the most part. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm excited about the indie space. Yeah. But a lot of the passion has left the industry. All it is, and you can't blame the people that work there either. Like, you know, everybody's just chasing a bigger salary, right? Yep. And they don't care, like, because if they don't have the freedom to do and be creative and create games the way they want to, they're just going to take the cash and call it a day, right? It is what it is. You know, and you can't blame them, because a lot of times you see people like, oh, tell the developers they're shit, or, you know, developers fix this stuff. Sometimes people don't understand that it's not their call. Developers will hate the game they made, but they made it because they had to, or they lose their job, you know? So there's always somebody above them that's going to squash their imagination, creativity, you know? It's sad. I think it's really sad. I do believe that it's, you know, it's not this big end for the gaming space. I think we're still going to have great games. We're still going to have amazing games. You know, Larian, people were pissed at Larian because there was multiple AAA studios that were extremely just profit oriented. It is a business, I get that, but they were like super hungry profit oriented. They were pissed. There were articles about it. You know, the Rockstar devs said like, oh, Larian is setting up what did they say? They're setting up a unrealistic example for different game studios and this and that. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You guys make billions of dollars, you know, and you're against actually doing some work and making games that function well, that are fun. Like, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it's insane. I just there's a lot. It's almost like, let me look at it this way, I guess. It's almost like we need, I don't know that it would happen in the same way that it happened back in the day, but it's almost like we need a video game crash to make these developers and companies realize that, man, we are really failing. Like, we need some actual like innovation or change in the video game industry. Like, we need real change. We need focus on gameplay and first person experiences, not first person, single player experiences. Some, you know, really story driven games. Like, multiplayer is great. Like, we always have a need for that, but I don't think people need to be focusing fully on these battle royales. Like, there's a space for that, and Fortnite has it. There's a few others that do okay, but Fortnite's got that space taken care of. And I think we need some different stuff going on. Like, sure, remakes and remasters are usually a pretty safe bet with stuff. Like, I'm not against that, because I feel like some things need to be brought to modern platforms for people to experience it. Like, if there's a game stuck on the PS1 and it gets a remaster or a remake, more likely a remake if it's from the PS1, I'm for it. Like, you know, that's 5 generations ago, or 4 generations ago. Like, we need that. People need to be able to experience that. But we still need new stuff, and companies shouldn't be dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into a new IP if they're not sure that it's going to do well. And they're always sure that it's going to do well, or they wouldn't be doing it or dumping the money in there.
I mean, I'm sure, and that's the thing. Like, we can't grasp how much research they do, how much money they shove into research. Like, they're not making these decisions on the fly, but at the same time, they have to pump the brakes at some point and say, hey, like, I don't think we're doing this right, But is that going to happen anytime soon? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's so hard to say what will happen. I'm interested to see what continues to happen because it's literally only the 14th. We've had now 5 announced layoffs. I know I've got one missed in the notes, so if somebody in the chat wants to drop that, whatever, I forgot, but there's another studio too. And it's just crazy to me. And hold on, let me ask you this too real quick. Because I think we talked a bit about Twitch, but Twitch, a lot of people were leaving Twitch and going to other platforms for a long time. You're in the streaming space mostly, and like I have been in there as well, but not quite as much as you, I guess. But I see a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter talking about their sort of moves and jumps to other platforms. You saw everybody leaving, like mass leaving Twitch, right? And going to like Kick or Facebook or...
I think I want to say yes and no, because you always got to look at the top 1%, because the top 1% is going to actually determine how impactful these changes are, how impactful these moves are, right? You have, I don't know, XQC getting a multi-contract with Kick. You have Aiden Ross getting an exclusive deal with Kick.
Yeah.
Kick is doing certain things right, but it's also breeding a specific type of gamers.
Yes,
and
it is.
Audiences. And I think they're slowly, they say they want to like
expand.
Well, no, they want to embrace like diversity and all this type of stuff, when in reality they just want to get the gambling sponsorship money, because it's backed by gambling money, right?
Yeah.
They want to, the end goal, I believe, for anything that Kick's doing is to get more people into gambling, and I think that's terrible. I think a lot of people see through it. They are doing certain things right. They're getting contracts with people. That's great, but I don't know. Time will tell. I really can't grasp them being like the big player over Twitch still. I can't. So definitely a weird situation in regards to Kick. YouTube, I've been seeing a lot more negative. There was a couple of big moves. You have Tim the Tatman, you have Dr. Disrespect, you have who are the other like big streamers that moved over there?
I mean, you named the ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, lately I've been seeing that YouTube is not actually doing a good job with the streaming space. I'm exclusively streaming on YouTube, not because I want to. It's because currently with my internet is what I have to do. I used to stream on Twitch before the discoverability changes were made, and I feel like, I don't know, I still feel like Twitch has just so many things that are creator oriented that the Twitch is it's gonna be around forever. Like it's gonna be, a visionary and a pioneer in a lot of things when it comes to the streaming space. The layoffs are awful, and laying off people to try to catch up on your cash flow is never a good thing.
Yep.
And I don't know how they're gonna do it. Yeah, it's crazy. Also, the way they're breeding, the sexualized content. It just, I don't know.
I don't know what they're trying to do with that. I just don't even know what to say about that. I think it's dumb. It's absolutely dumb.
It makes them a lot of money. I mean, that's the bottom line.
I'm sure.
Right?
I'm sure, but how does that look for your general audience? That's not your general audience. And I feel like that's companies.
But that's the thing. There's an 80-20 rule, right? And if you don't know what that is, in business, 80-20 rule, and in game development, you will have 80% of people that will be one part of the income for whatever you're doing, right? And then you have the 20% people that make you 80% of the income. So 80% of the population will make you 20% of your income, and then 20% of that population will make you the 80% of the income. And this is basically when it comes down to video games, this is basically the whales, right? They call them whales, right? They will spend like millions of dollars or whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a video game. So in a sense, for Twitch, they might be saying, oh, look, this stuff that's not mainly for our platform, which is like, you know, the just chatting and pool streams and beach streams, yoga streams, whatever they do nowadays.
Hey, I do some just chatting streams. Dang.
But what they see in that is they probably say, oh, they're racking in so much money for our platform, we're gonna kind of put some effort into it, right? On the down low, I don't know if you saw, like a couple weeks ago, they had a whole the whole controversy of accepting artistic nudity, and so there was just a bunch of girls apparently like streaming topless. I don't know. It is a extremely weird spot for all streaming services, and I do feel like Twitch being challenged is going to be good for Twitch, actually, because they're going to wake up, hopefully, and be like, oh, there's things we need to do better. We're losing market share, right?
Well, they're backed by Amazon, so they're not. I don't think they're going anywhere, right? I don't think that they're disappearing, but I do think that. Now, listen, I know you said looking at the top 1%, and that's true, and I even saw a lot of the top 1% leaving Twitch. But
no,
what
I agree. But is there enough people in 1% to actually affect Twitch? That's the question.
No. Right? But what's funny is that I just saw the past 3 weeks, people going back to Twitch, and then we get this announcement, which was kind of absurd. I mean, I must have seen at least 50 people. I'm streaming back on Twitch. I'm going back on Twitch. I'm leaving Kick. I'm leaving Facebook. Back to Twitch.
Yeah. And Facebook is in a really bad place when it comes to streaming. We can just get that out of the window.
It is, yeah. I feel like here's what I was telling somebody the other day. The only things that do good on Facebook, and it's hard to do anyway, are retro streams or Call of Duty. And you're catering to an older audience. Like you're talking like 90% are over the age of 30. So you're catering to an older audience. So the retro makes sense. If you look at the retro streaming pages, million followers, 900,000 followers, 500. You know, I see it all the time. So that makes sense. But yeah, Facebook's in a weird place. If you're doing like variety streams, or if you're playing something that's current that most people aren't going to care about, you're probably not going to do well on Facebook.
Good luck.
I've done it. I've tried them all. I've streamed exclusive to every platform at some point, and I've experimented, and I promise you that unfortunately just does not work. If you happen to hit, it can. If you happen to hit a weird niche that does work, you can do it. But I don't recommend Facebook if you're trying to do stuff like that. Now, if you're playing, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and all that stuff, shoot for the stars, man. Go for it, because you can do well with it. I see it all the time. Same with Kick. Weirdly, retro stuff does very well on there, but doesn't on Twitch. Yes, it does very well on Kick.
Interesting.
Yeah, but also, again, Call of Duty does very well on Kick.
I was going to say I'm surprised that Kick does well in retro space, because I imagine all of their viewers being 15-year-old puberty, hormone-ridden boys that see a gambler hit with fake money $1 million, and they're like, that's gonna be me, bro. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna make a ton of money. It's gonna be amazing.
It's funny because
Graphics
Gear said Kick is piggybacking off of AWS. They pay Amazon for the same tech as Twitch. That isn't sustainable. Twitch needs to offer small streamers transcoding for it to be an option. And also said Facebook will never feel like a destination for entertainment. So
I disagree with that. There's a lot of entertainment on Twitch, on Facebook, but it's just not in the streaming space.
I agree with the transcoding stuff. Yeah, I disagree that there's not it's not the premier destination for entertainment by any means. I mean, look at TikTok streamers. Like, numbers are crazy. Numbers are crazy. I go in there and look. So it's weird because I wasn't a TikTok user before making the Game Junction page on there, and like I didn't care. I still don't really have like a super interest in it. But occasionally I'll pop up the For You feed or whatever. It just pops up when I click on the app, and I'll see all these streams and just amazed at how well they're doing. Scrolling through all retro game streams, even streaming new games, and like they're popping off. So there's a space for it there, but I don't think Facebook is the premier destination for entertainment. I think it's probably near the bottom for that. But there's a lot of entertainment to be had there. So
yeah, for sure. I think I don't know. It's again, if we get into the, what is the average age of somebody who's using Facebook? What is the average age of somebody on Kick, on Twitch? Like, it's a mixed bag, and it's not a good mixed bag, I believe. There's not enough diversity in a sense with viewership. So you just see trends really easily in those spaces for sure.
And just to quickly pop back around, so you think the layoffs are from AI and the AAA sort of crash of games?
Yeah, and that's why I'm banking on indie developers getting a huge spike in the next couple of years, because of AI. You used to have these guys. I used to actually hunt for them on Twitch. There's these guys that would be solo developers, and they would be making their game on Twitch. Like, why would you show anybody source code for your project? But surprisingly enough, there's a lot of people that actually love this stuff, and they don't necessarily want to steal the project. Which, it's not that it was my first thought, but think about, like Rockstar or somebody else like doing that. Like, nobody would do that. Nobody would show you the source code for their game because you can copy it and do better, for example.
Well, a lot of these guys are using open source software, so like it's not a big deal. They're usually not like NES Maker, or there's tons of them. RPG Maker has an open source software now. It's not just on consoles. There's a lot of them. There's a Game Boy one.
Yeah, but the point I was trying to make is now you're going to see a shift of one-person studios, as they call them, right? You will see those people making actually good games, like because of AI, right? They're not going to have to sit down and do tedious tasks that are like mandatory for, I don't know. And people don't understand how complicated it is to program a video game.
Very complicated.
Let's say inventory management, right? Like, that could be a project that lasts you like 3, 4, 5 months, like a year, right? And that's why a lot of the solo devs quit. It's a lot of tedious work, right?
Yep.
And you don't get to do the creative stuff, because creative stuff is easy, right? You can write out a story on a piece of paper and be like, okay, I want my quest line to work like this. And as you're developing the game, you can slowly go from point A to point B to point C to point D and make that transition, right? But what's actually difficult with video games is making systems in a video game that are fun enough to carry your story, to carry your quest lines, right? And things of that nature. But with AI, hey, we might see a lot of creative projects that are going to come to life and not be left, collecting dust in somebody's repository of, projects that they want to do if they have time, right? It might actually happen. So exciting, but then again, it's hard to tell.
It really is. It really is. So with next set of news, there's so much news. We didn't even get everything in here. So this was a big one that popped off on Tuesday. So the conversation started with this. This was huge because I know a couple of people involved with. I've sent you Spawncast before and Spawnwave, his channel. Nate the Hate is on his podcast and on a few on his network. He's got a new network. And on the Nate the Hate podcast, he reported that an Xbox first-party title is coming to another platform, and it was a in-the-game conversation game. So it was in conversation for Game of the Year. Yeah. So, and it's coming, and it's Xbox exclusive, and is reportedly coming to another platform. And we kind of know what was up Xbox related for Game of the Year. So what are your thoughts on this? What game do you think it is? What platform do you think it's coming to?
I don't know. They talk a lot about being open to working with PlayStation, but then they don't actually work with PlayStation.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do believe that there's a big benefit if PlayStation and Microsoft will work together. Is it going to happen? Hard to tell. Do I want it to happen? Yes, I do. Is it going to happen? It's
Probably not. Probably with PlayStation. Probably.
My guess would be either Switch.
Yep.
I mean, Switch. Really, that's the only other option. Because
Yeah.
most of the stuff you get released on Xbox eventually comes to PC in one way or another.
Yep.
So I would say it's something with Nintendo. I feel like Nintendo is slowly losing grip. I don't know how I didn't check their sales or anything like that in the past couple of years, but I feel like Nintendo has been they've been doing the same formula for so long that they're comfortable where they're at, and I think it's slowly getting to bite them in the ass, which I'm not happy about. But also, you reap what you sow. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. I really want to have a better answer for you, but there's just so many possibilities, right?
There is. And like we've had some Xbox games obviously come to PlayStation, but it's been very minimal. It's obvious that PlayStation doesn't want to work with anybody. Xbox and Nintendo, I feel like, have the best relationship they've ever had. We've gotten like the Ori games on Switch. We've gotten obviously Minecraft's on everything. We've gotten the Ori games. We've gotten what else? There's been some other stuff too.
I think most realistically, the Switch is going to be the next game.
Yeah.
But then you think about it, it's like there's only so much juice that Switch can push out. And I don't know if you saw like a couple of months ago when they were showing Mortal Kombat 1 coming to Switch. That shit looked horrible.
Oh yeah. Well, I played it, so it's not great. So I mean, there was a few. As far as games, and I'm like dead set on what I know what it is and coming to Switch myself. But we had Alan Wake 2, Armored Core. Wait, these are not exclusives. Oh, Company of Heroes 3 was nominated. That's an Xbox One. City Skylines 2.
Let's see.
Yeah,
City Skylines is definitely not coming to Switch. I can tell you that much.
Forza Motorsport would be in. Yeah, you're right.
Forza. Actually, that sounds like a title that might be feasible because I feel like they worked on that engine for ages now, and I think they could probably like optimize it enough to where it runs reasonably well.
Liza
and
P.
Actually, now that I think about it, Liza P. I mean, Liza P did really well, but are they gonna go through? Yeah, you see, I don't know.
I don't. I mean, yeah, people were hype. I still got to play it, unfortunately, and it's on the backlog. I plan on playing it, but
yeah, I'm gonna be streaming Liza P soon. I'm finishing up Baldur's Gate in the next, hopefully 2 weeks on stream, and then I'm gonna start Liza P parallel to my Dark Souls 1 playthrough. Yeah, Liza P looks great. Now, if they want to make it such a big deal, is that gonna be? It's such a niche, like. It's a very niche style of game, right?
Yeah.
Even for people that really like that style of game, there's some of them that are so intimidated, myself included. Like I didn't want to start Souls-like video games for probably like more than a decade.
I don't blame you. I played every one of them and never finished a single one. That's crazy. Every single one. Yeah, I got the remake, Demon Souls. Demon Souls for PS5. Played 2 hours of it, man, and I gave up. I'm like, this is hard. This is the hardest one I played. Like this is hard. Crazy. Yeah, and I try because they're good games. I know they're good games, but I'm just not
very good game.
I'm not good at them. And if I just don't have time. Where if I can't get through it and I'm dying 500, I just don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah,
there's so many other games.
That's understandable. It's not for everybody, and that was my like initial fear. And then I played Elden Ring, and it's so approachable, and it gives you so much room to learn.
Yes,
I beat
Elden Ring.
and here, but also I have a lunatic brain, right? I spent 16 hours on stream, not one stream, but it was multiple streams of me fighting this one boss, right? And I was like, hey, I'm gonna beat this. Like, it's Melania, the Blade of Mikula, and I'm sure you saw videos and stuff. It's the anyway. The long story short, I finally beat the boss. I go to the final bosses, and I do them in like one stream, and that's like 3 bosses that are super hard. And because I had spent so much time with this really the most difficult boss in Elden Ring, I was like, okay, this is not bad, right? And once I actually got the grasp on Souls-like games, it was much more enjoyable. And now playing Dark Souls 1, it's just a blast. But it's not for everybody. Go back to the story, we're drifting off. Lies of P, I feel like there's like a 25% chance that that's the title. I would say Forza would be a much better thing, something that you would want to play on the toilet, you would want to play in bed, just drifting around. It would be fun.
So here's my input on it. Here's what I think. I think it is Hi-Fi Rush coming to Switch. That art style suits Switch. I think it would sell better on Switch. It looks like a Switch game, and it's a spiritual successor. Not spiritual successor, but attempting to be like Jet Set Radio. So I feel like that fits the Switch better than it does Xbox. And
for sure.
Coming to PlayStation, I would love if it came to PlayStation, but I don't think it is. And that's my input. In Forza Motorsport, I don't know that could run on Switch. I don't know. Have you seen it?
It's not gonna be. No, it's not gonna be as beautiful. But
that would chug, man. I don't know.
Yeah, but isn't it pretty well optimized for PC? I feel like it's. I mean, I don't know about
the PC. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't
want
to talk about the Xbox, but
I played it. And it's beautiful. It does not, to me, in my eyes, look like something that would run well on Switch, but it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, we got The Witcher on Switch, which is like a massive game. It's an old game, but it's still a massive game. So it's very shocking.
I mean, I've seen some screenshot. It looks terrible, but
I got it.
Did you play it?
Yeah, I've got it. I bought the big box and everything. Yeah, actually, I still put a lot of time into it. Handheld, it's fine. Like you can barely tell. Like obviously, it could have better frame rate. Like it could look better, but handheld, I think it's fine. Especially if you're playing on the OLED. Like it's fine. It works for a portable version. Is it the best version? By no means, but I still put like 40 hours into it, so it was good enough.
That's a win.
It was good enough to play. So that's my thoughts. I think Hi-Fi Rush. I think Switch, and I think announced real soon. I'm expecting like the next few weeks a weekend announcement, but that's my prediction. I have no inside knowledge on that part specifically, but it did say that something is coming soon. So. Interesting stuff. Yeah, and then
I mean, do you think that they would announce something for the Switch 2 or whatever? Like, would it be a title that would come on Switch 2 or something? Because if that's the case, maybe there's like a lot more choices we can look into, right?
We'd have way more choices. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, I guess we actually can just jump right into that. We got a bunch of reports this week. There were a whole bunch, and it's hard to skim through like the rumors because you see like the channels cover all the rumors, and there has been something I swear to you, every single day this week. But there is something that seems to be pretty solidified coming from a pretty good source that the Switch 2 will run at 120 frames per second in handheld.
Which resolution though?
Right, that's the question.
Below 1080p, I believe it. At 1080p native, I don't believe it.
Yeah, so reports are saying handheld 1080p 120, which is.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they pull it off. But.
Yeah, I would love if they pulled it off. I mean, but
for sure.
Well, it's so hard to say, man. We've got like the sort of specs essentially for the Switch 2 that seemed to be pretty solidified because we had the leak last year and the current specs out say the same. We've got the rumored specs are T239 SoC, TSMC N4 node processor, 4 nanometer, 8-core A7 8C CPU, clock rates unknown, 12-stream multiprocessor GPU, performance ranging from 3.5 to 4.5 teraflops, docked, and 1.7 to 2 teraflops handheld.
Wait, what was the docked?
3.5 to 4.5 teraflops docked.
Okay.
12 or 16. I've seen more reports say 16, but 12 or 16 gigabytes of RAM, LP DDR5 DRAM, 100 gigabyte memory bandwidth docked, and 88 gigabyte handheld. And most of the reports I've seen this, so this seems pretty accurate, that 64 gigabytes of internal storage. With at least 128 gigabytes of storage expected in the final product. So, and of course, an NVIDIA chipset with DLSS. So that would be I think a game changer, and also a Nintendo saying we don't have to go hard on this because we're going to use your AI technology to make our games look better.
Yeah, for sure.
But DLSS is very viable. I mean, I've seen it in action. It's crazy stuff. Like it does good stuff. So we could have some.
I'd say it depends. Being on PC, it really depends with DLSS. I don't think it's there yet. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think it can be way better. But yeah, that's a discussion for another time, and maybe for another announcement that we get.
I do wonder though.
What are we gonna transition to?
No, I do wonder though. I don't think Nintendo would use a technology in their system if they weren't sure it was completely viable and usable for...
No, it's viable. Don't get me wrong. It is viable. It is just... It makes certain things smudgy. I don't think they have it to a potential it can have with the current technology. But, as everything in technology, it's just going to keep evolving, and
yeah,
I'm sure we'll get something great soon.
I'm still curious if we get multiple SKUs with additional internal storage or anything like that, RAM upgrades. I'm doubtful on that. I would probably I could see them doing the Wii U thing where it's just more internal storage or something, but who knows? I mean, who knows? We had reports a while ago on a Nintendo Switch Micro, like a smaller light that's a handheld only. Coming out. I
mean, I can see that happening because they want to just cover all of the markets, right? But then you run into an issue of, like, how much are you actually going to? I don't know. Like, how well are you going to be able to develop your games? Then you're restricting yourself for like next gen stuff. It's hard to tell.
I could see it, and it would be something. From what I saw, it would be something like the Game Boy Micro. The Game Boy Micro came out a year after the DS was out. So we are already on to the new platform, and we got a new iteration for the previous hardware. So, like, they've done this before. I mean, and, like, the same thing with them releasing games for systems of past, like the 3DS. They still had 6 or 7 first-party titles come out several years into the Switch being out, like the Luigi's Mansion remake and Kirby game and stuff like that. So who knows? I mean, it could come out. I could see $100 Switch Micro, but it'd be weird, that's for sure. But I can maybe see it, maybe. So we've also got a really cool announcement, I think, and this one I was super hyped for, and I'm for sure covering this on the channel. Hyperkin announced the Mega 95, which is a portable and dockable Sega Genesis handheld. It's a modern-day take on the Sega Nomad. No price or details confirmed, but have you seen this beauty? Because I
saw your post. Yeah,
dude. Yeah, it
looks sick.
Yeah, this is going to be a very niche product, but the retro market, man. Everything I've seen, people's reactions are crazy. So, like, just the reactions I've seen, like, it's enough for them to sell, $129, $100 handheld like this. It's dockable. They've got a version of it for the Super Nintendo that's done very well for them. And I think this would do even better because this has a dock for it. Play it on the big screen. Play your physical cart collection. It's obviously targeted at people that buy the physical carts and specifically retro gamers, but who knows? It could, this was reported from all over. I mean, I saw this on MSN,
Yeah,
all kinds of
it
new,
looks beautiful.
yeah, mainstream news sources. So it looks really, really cool. It's probably going to be. My guess is $129.99 because of the dock, but they priced the Super Nintendo Portable, I believe, at $100. Or yeah, I think $100 when it launched, and there's a few iterations of that one now.
I mean, they could always pull the buy the dock separately. It's not necessary, right?
They could, yeah, they could
Who
for
knows?
sure.
Who knows?
But it's interesting because I've got a Sega Nomad. I actually use it frequently.
Yeah.
This is a cool new type of take on that, and I think it's neat that they have like the actual layout from the Sega Genesis controller. Like it's got the same.
That was my first. Yeah, that was my first reaction. It's like I love the way it looks. They're not deviating from it, even though they can make it much more ergonomic and everything. I'm sure they put like thought into it, but it definitely looks. It looks nostalgic, and
Yeah.
they play on it, and I think it's gonna work for them for sure.
Yeah, it's a niche product at the end of the day, but it's cool. It's got 10 hours of battery life, which is neat because the Sega Nomad has like 3 if you're lucky with batteries. But yeah, I think they've got a Sega Genesis like console that they sell, and I think that one is. I think that's $129.99, or it could be $100. I forget, but I think it's going to use the same hardware. It's somewhere in between, like crappy emulation and FPGA. It's got like a sort of sweet spot that it's in. It's not FPGA, so you can expect that there might be issues with it.
Yeah.
But it says right here, it's between a software emulator and a premium FPGA based system. So obviously, it is still emulation, even with your physical carts. At the end of the day, USB-C, yeah, looks cool.
Yeah. So what? Tell me this, because I'm not, as some people know, some may not. I'm not super into the console space, per se, but I feel like Nintendo doesn't really allow a lot of people to be creative like this, right? Does PlayStation and do they allow that stuff more?
PlayStation, like mods and like.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
I mean, there's no
I don't
like.
know how it works for licensing and stuff.
So yeah, I'm sure that this is licensed out with Sega. This one, I'm not positive, but it might not be because the Super Nintendo handheld definitely isn't. But mods and stuff. PlayStation usually doesn't care if it's previous hardware. They usually don't care. There's tons of mods for PS1, PS2, PS3.
Gotcha.
They usually don't care about their legacy hardware like that. They're not after people for ROMs and hacking and if it's usually just if it's a previous console generation and obviously the current. So yeah, it's usually not a big deal. There's no like things like this out there for like the PS1 or PS2, like where there's like actual other hardware being made, but there's tons of mods, like tons. I mean, there's
and I feel like, and the reason why I was asking about Sony specifically or PlayStation is because I feel like Sega has to do it because they're just not a big player anymore, right? Like they'll take anything, right? They'll license anything out because like, oh shit, it's extra revenue, right? But I feel like on the PlayStation and Nintendo space, and I don't even know if Microsoft like allows any of this shit because I never really see mods and stuff for that. But sorry, give me just 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
But it's just always interesting to see because you may not think that this directly impacts the current gaming scene, but it does. It really does because brand loyalty is big, and if little companies like this make something cool and say, "Oh, look, we made this cool Sega console," right? Or it reminds you of even though it's an emulator, they can win some brand loyalty and maybe convert people towards PlayStation or towards Microsoft. So it's always interesting to see how that affects the market.
Yeah, it is for sure, and retro is at a boom. I think it's maybe died down a little since the past few years because of what happened. Retro like exploded, but it's still there. Like there's still a giant audience. A lot of people that got back into it during then are still into it now. But yeah, I mean, as far as Xbox, like mod wise, like yeah, they usually don't care about legacy hardware either. It's not there's so many there's probably more mods for the original Xbox than I can think of for any other console.
Oh really?
Yeah, there are so many. And constantly being made. I just saw today on Twitter a new mod that somebody was showing off for the original Xbox with they used to have it. It was called the Executor mod, but it had a big screen on the front of it. Well, this guy's bringing it back and updating that, so you got a big LCD screen on the front of your Xbox and shows everything that's running, cool. And you can control stuff with it, and it's really neat. So, like, yeah, all this legacy hardware is constantly getting stuff for it. And then, like, speaking of Sega, because you were saying that, we got the announcement during the Game Awards about this. Me and Mark live streamed it, and they announced about the 5 franchises coming back, which were
Crazy Taxi, Vikings, Lost Vikings, and wait, what else was it?
Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, and Shinobi.
Oh, Jet Set. Oh, that's right, Shinobi. Yeah.
But
that's really cool.
I'm trying to pull it up because this one, like I said, there was a bunch of stuff we didn't get in the notes, unfortunately, and I just saw that this was just 2 days ago, and I'm trying to find it. But they announced 5 more.
Oh,
5
really?
more legacy franchises coming back, and there was a couple of really cool ones. I'm trying to freaking find it, but I'm struggling here. So, yeah, anyway, there's 5 more classic franchises that were making a return. And I think they only announced 2 of the 5 were, like, confirmed or something. But because Sega has a new president, like, he's wanting to revamp the company, which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's the same sort of thing with like Atari right now. They just announced a new My Arcade handheld. One of the things we actually might as well jump to it, I suppose. They just announced 2 days ago a Atari 400 Mini is coming out, and it's called the 400 Mini, which is one of the 8-bit computers. So this is very surprising. You would think that they would jump to something else, but they just had the Atari 2600 Plus come out, which plays physical carts. They've got all the My Arcade stuff coming out. CES, they just revealed a new Atari handheld that's got a trackball, a spinner, and a D-pad on it, so you can play all the variety of games that Atari released. Cool. Yeah, it's really, really neat. But this 400 Mini is right up my alley because I like the 8-bit computers. I had one growing up.
That's cool. I never had a chance that one.
It's neat. It's priced at, it just went up for sale too yesterday on Amazon.
Wait, how much is it?
$119.99. And it does allow access for USB to add more games, so you can have the full library on there if you want to. But it comes with 25 games built in. And yeah, I mean, you can load up whatever you want on it. You can deck it out. You can add other Atari systems on there as well. But it looks really cool. It's definitely really neat. And this company called Retro Games, they've been doing a bunch of these mini consoles that sometimes fly under the radar. There was like the Commodore 64 Mini, and then they did Maxi, which had a usable keyboard on it, a full-size usable keyboard. So it was essentially a new Commodore 64, basically.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they've done the Amiga console too, mini console. They did that not long ago. So like they're putting out all these cool mini consoles. Sometimes flies under the radar because it's more niche stuff. But it's definitely neat, definitely worth mentioning, and that is something I do plan to cover as well because I'm a fan, and I had that as a kid, and a little nostalgic for it. Cool. We got a few comments here. So I'm still struggling with these daggone contacts. Got lights camera rant in here saying good afternoon, boys. Mystically saying hey, and Graphics Gear saying Nintendo just a few months ago released a 3DS update just to block mods.
Oh, nice.
Oh man. That's funny. He also said, I never wanted a portable. I wish Nintendo just made a Switch dongle like a Chromecast.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
It blows my mind, whenever I hear news about Nintendo and they're so bitter about allowing anything being modded or done like it I always hate seeing news about Nintendo because it usually hurts the end consumer in some way or another. And I don't know. How do they still have such a cult following? I don't get it. I guess they have the most iconic franchises in video games, but still, it's crazy to me what they do.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. I agree. It's just it's wild to me. I don't know. I just don't know. But we've also got in other news. This is a pretty big one. So if I can do it, I haven't locked in that I can. I'm definitely gonna try. Microsoft announced their Developer Direct scheduled for January 18th at 3 p.m. And they announced this on Tuesday. So they've got a list of most of what is going to be covered on their website. But yeah, Developer Directs are always kind of cool. I like to see these events from the company. What I know so far from this, what they shared is they're going to be showing off, which I'm really excited about, the new Indiana Jones game, which looks super
I really
cool.
hope they don't reskin like some existing franchise or something. I really hate
it's Machine Games, so they do pretty good stuff. I'm a fan of the studio. They did all the Wolfenstein stuff, which was pretty good. I liked all that. I think there was only one of them I didn't care for, New Blood or something, but yeah, pretty good stuff. And then we also know about Avowed, which is a Obsidian game, of course, and this has been talked about now for a little while, but it's an action RPG. I think it looks really cool. We've also got Era History Untold. This one I don't know too much about, but it's a strategy style game, so probably not up my alley, but who knows. Senua Saga, Hellblade 2. I know people are super excited about that. Ninja Theory.
I'm planning on streaming that at some point soon.
Yeah, I think I want to stream that
experience.
Too. Did you play the first game?
No, I'm planning on streaming the first game.
Oh, you're going to stream the first game. Yeah, you should. Yeah. It's really good. It's really good. I think you would enjoy it.
For sure.
And basically this press report said it's unclear whether Microsoft will show off other stuff. They usually do during these developer directs. So there's usually like 2 or 3 other things. So I'm curious to see those other things. And Indiana Jones. I like Machine Games. I like Indiana Jones. Could be cool. I'm sure it's going to be like, legit single player in-depth sort of story. So yeah, it looks cool. What do you think? You interested? You care about it?
Well, I care about it now because they just acquired, a bunch of studios. So I think this makes it much more meaningful. It makes it more exciting. How much they're going to reveal, who knows? I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's been so formulaic with the recent like announcements for video games and like franchises and stuff that, events like this, I don't know if they're actually going to show something new. Because I think, wait, isn't Prince of Persia?
Dude, speaking of that, I did not put that in the notes, but my God, does that game look amazing? Holy
because everybody was shitting on it, but
I haven't heard a single negative thing about that game.
I've heard a lot of people say bad stuff.
What, dude? I've been hearing like raving reviews for that game.
Yeah,
I watched a bunch of gameplay of it, and I think it looks legit, dude. It looks. I heard it controls just as well as Metroid Dread, and it's a Metroidvania, so I'm on board.
Yeah, should be fun. But my point is, games like that have been announced a couple of times already. It's cool to see new stuff, but at the same time, it's not this big wow factor.
Yeah,
that something's being revealed that's like crazy, right? So I'm actually most excited about Developer Direct for indie stuff. And
Yeah.
I've been advocating for indie stuff for probably the last 3 years. Ever since I got sick of, AAA studios doing dumb shit with franchises and video games. I've been super excited, super positive about the indie space. It sucks, obviously, when an indie studio gets acquired by a bigger studio. They disassemble it, or they try to work on it, and then they make it worse. It's really annoying.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you
Go
this.
ahead.
I'm friends with a lot of indie developers and studios.
Okay.
What are you interested in streaming them? Are you interested in covering them at all? Out of
Uh,
curiosity.
I would love to give more exposure to indie games. I feel like I don't know how to put it. Like, there is such a, because here's what I do. This is my, I don't know if it's autism or or ADHD. What is it? But I will literally go to Steam. I will filter the games down to the under $5, and I will literally only look at cool indie titles.
Okay, I do that on the Switch.
I
just
found
did it yesterday.
so many gems. I find so many gems, and I wonder, how does this have 6 reviews? Like, it actually blows my mind. So I do some indie reviews every now and then. Some of you may have seen it, and I do like what I call a quick review, right? And I play a game for like 45 minutes to an hour. I make a video out of it, and basically I tell people if they should spend money on this, right? And not because I get the key to review it. I genuinely feel like 80% of those games I would recommend to everybody.
Okay. Well, I can link you up with some people. I already wanted to do a shout out on here, but my buddies over at 8-Bit Legit, they've got a new game coming out that I'll be covering, and they just sent me the code yesterday to check it out, and I played with it a little bit. I'm thinking about streaming it maybe, but it's called Dead Tomb, and it's a new point-and-click style game for the NES, and it is on Nintendo Switch and Xbox, but also they are releasing a physical NES cart for it, so head on over to their website if you're interested in those style of games. Pretty cool. They put out really good stuff, and they put out many games a year. They're publishing all types of games, so there's probably some other stuff up your alley, but yeah, that's a cool indie developer that's very active and consistently and publisher putting out cool stuff. But yeah, that might be cool, man. Maybe you can dive in that a little bit, even if it's like a quickie style review or something. Or you don't even have to review, but maybe you can just talk about it or stream it or check it out. Like these indie developers and studios will appreciate when people do that, because they need to get the word out.
I think they already have such a hard time like keeping up with the development, the cost with the development, that I think just giving them something like a little bit of exposure is cool, and I always like to support. I had a couple of people that are basically solo developers reach out to me and like, oh, if it would mean a lot to me if you just took a look. And I'm always happy to do that. I just feel like they put so much hard work into it, and then more often than not, their work goes unnoticed because they don't have multi-million dollars of budget, and then shit like Redfall or whatever gets millions and millions in advertising, and then it just flops, right? So anyway,
it's unfortunate.
It
sucks. It sucks for those guys. I mean, and the other thing is too, like, this is just the truth. Like the market. There's a lot of indie games out there. There's a lot, and a lot being released every week. So for them, in just that space, there is a ton of competition. They have a lot to compete with. I forget the number, but there's something like 30 games a week that come out on just the Switch eShop, for instance. Like a lot. Like there are so many releases.
I can't even imagine what the number is for Steam. It's probably insane.
Yeah, there's a lot. So they got a lot of competition. The market, I don't want to say is flooded, but there is a lot, and I know that for a fact. There's just so many releases. So
for sure.
Yeah, there's that. And then we've also got, this was just announced, I want to say yesterday or the day before, but Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age are coming to Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, and it is dropping in 3 days on the 17th. So if you're a listener, it may already be out, but this will be available to you. And two fantastic, amazing, both 10 out of 10 RPGs, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for a lot of RPG players, actually. And I feel like we always say this is the year for RPG players. I feel like every single year is a year for RPG players. There's always something cool in the RPG space. Like, it's crazy.
The RPGs are just rampant, man. Like, you can't not have something to play. Like, I've got my biggest backlog problem is RPGs, because you have to invest the time, man.
Oh yeah.
They're time sinks, so it sucks because like that's my favorite genre, and it's also the genre I get to play the least. So
yeah, agreed. It sucks in that regard, but I'm happy for people that have, I have friends that just go and play Cyberpunk for 700 hours. I'm like, it must be nice.
Yeah, I wish.
I used to do it. But now it's just different. I can't do that anymore. But I'm glad I get to do that. It is.
I mean, I did that back in the day too. Like when before kids and before all the as many responsibilities. I still did it as a young adult.
Yeah.
Again,
sure.
less responsibilities. It was also even easier when my daughter was a baby. I would say it was easier to do that. But yeah, it's
for sure.
It's definitely an interesting time. But have you played either of these games?
I have not. There's a lot of old console games that I never got to touch because, I grew up in Eastern Europe, and any kind of console was really a luxury. And I know depending on where you grew up, people will say like, oh, well, it was a luxury for us too in the US, but, you would maybe get it for Christmas or something. Here in Serbia, where I'm from, it was extremely rare. So a lot of the cult classics that people are like, oh my God, you have to experience this, right? I never got a chance to, because it was just not available.
Well, you have a Switch. I think that I think you would enjoy these. I would at least give that first one a go. They were GBA games. I just top tier RPGs, honestly. Like story's great. The mechanics are great. They're not long, if I remember right. You can beat the first one in like 12 hours or something, pretty short.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
The second one, if I remember correctly, is a bigger time sink. But very fun, very fun. They had one drop on the DS too. I forget what that one's called. But good series, and it definitely, I use the term a lot, but they're underrated. They really are. Nobody talks about them anymore. People do in the RPG community, but they don't get talked about, and they didn't sell well, I'm sure, back in the day because they were a new IP and what they were. But definitely cool.
A lot of games ahead of their time in that period. Nowadays, you don't get the feeling of that as much because there's just so much technology now that you can kind of create what your vision is. But back in the day when people made really cool video games, it was like very often missed because people just didn't understand how good or how well executed a video game is, right? There's a lot of classics from the PC era also that got overlooked. But that's a topic for another time. Definitely check those games out, guys, when they drop.
For sure. So we've also got, this one's kind of cool, man. So I saw this drop, and I actually didn't put two and two together, but a lot of other people did, and I saw it pop back up again. But Spyro the Dragon's social media on every single platform. I actually saw this on Threads of all things.
Yeah.
They teased 2024 motto, "You gotta believe," with a picture of Spyro. So I think it's probably safe to assume that we've got a Spyro game coming in 2024, and it's been a long time since we had a new game. So
I would go ahead and assume that it's not coming in 2024.
Really?
I feel like they might. Yeah, I feel like they're talking about the announcement. They're gonna choose like a big event, put money into it, market it really well, but I think that the remaster of the original trilogy
Did very, very well. Like,
yeah, so they did
Yeah.
well, and then people just saw that there is it's a viable option to, hey, let's give another game a go, right? But I don't know. I doubt that it's gonna be a release in 2024. As much as it would be cool to see it, I don't know.
I mean, you could be right. Like, there's no confirmation on that. I think either one or the other is happening, though. We're either getting an announcement or we are getting the game this year. I personally would not be surprised if we got it this year, because they could have been working on this, 6 months after the trilogy came out. And gosh, when did that come out? Like 4 years ago or something?
Yeah, but I don't know if they want to release like a major title, right? Unless they're making like a mobile game, or they're making
I hope not.
a
not.
DLC, right? Or if it's something like that, sure, maybe it releases in 2024. But I don't think they can come up with a good project in like 3 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but
it is Spyro. Like, it's not going to be intensive, I don't think. But I mean, who knows? You could be right.
Maybe, but that's the thing. That's the thing. Maybe they're like shooting for the stars, right? Maybe they're like, oh, look, people actually still love Spyro. Let's like go all out and make this, ambitious project and just put a shitload of money in marketing. Like, it's possible. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but I guess we'll just wait and see for the announcement.
Well, this is crazy. They hit their 10 million sales milestone on September 4th of last year. So obviously it's been past that since, but that is crazy for
Spyro.
Yeah, that is insane. So it is the top selling game in the franchise. And it's a remake. So I guess, remaster. I guess they're remasters, but they almost look like remakes, I think.
Yeah. I think it's not a big deal that it is. It brings new people into the trilogy. It brings new people to the franchise, and I think it's cool. I think it's there's a time and place for remakes and remasters.
Yeah. Do you think we're getting a brand new game, or do you think we're getting a remake of, like, say, Enter the Dragon or one of those games?
I don't know if they're gonna. I mean, what could they possibly do that's gonna be so different that's gonna wow the audience? A new game, like,
I think it needs to be a new game, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. If they don't do a new game, they're stupid. Like, they're not gonna get as much of a backing of fans as they think they will.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows, right? Like, we always say this, like, remakes and remasters shouldn't be like praised so much because studios don't work on actual projects, then they work on remaking games and instead of making new stuff and whatever, yada yada yada. But
sometimes it's testing the waters like this. Like, sometimes they need to test the waters and make sure they won't lose money.
Maybe.
I mean,
who knows?
And like, it worked. The nostalgia factor hit, and I think a Spyro game isn't going to lose on money. And we're not looking at a $500 million project. So yeah, I don't know. It's cool. It's exciting. I like Spyro. I've always liked Spyro. I am in the camp that the first 3 games are the best games. I think there's some bad games in the series. I mean, I even played like the GBA games, like that that Crash Spyro crossover. I don't know if you remember those. There was a Crash.
I remember seeing something about it. As I said, like, I never played a lot of those.
Right.
But yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's cool for fans of Spyro.
Yeah. Sure.
We've got this is up your alley. I definitely wanted to put this in here because I think it's interesting. NVIDIA GeForce 40 Super Series was announced. Did you see this?
I have, and we can keep this topic super short.
Okay.
Because I do have to leave soon. But my opinion on NVIDIA hasn't changed in the last 10 years, probably. They're becoming way too greedy. It is completely unnecessary. Refreshes have been done way too much lately. There's no reason you would need a refresh of the 40 series cards because the mid-range 40 series cards can run anything at 4K, right? You can't give me an argument that's gonna say, oh, you need this 12% improvement. If it's even that, okay, let's.
I saw stuff that was like 1 0.5% improvement, like 2% improvement, and
what's the point of engineering something that's going to be such a minuscule thing?
well, I think the thing is, like, I saw that some of these are cheaper than like when the regular 40 series launched. So like these are just a refresh on these.
Yeah, and you're talking about essentially utilizing the rest of your chips, right? Probably the rest of the silicone that they had, and just basically optimizing the software. I don't even think that there's a major difference with the hardware. I would be extremely surprised if there was major engineering done on the new wafers.
I love that all their comparisons are showing the 2070s, the 3070s, and then showing they're not comparing it to the regular 4070 versus the Super.
No.
They're comparing it to the
because they a number 7 is not going to be as cool as number 77, right? So 77% chance is going to be like, oh, not chance, but 77% change or improvement is going to be like, wow, like this is cool. But then if you say like, oh, this is 5% faster than their cars were released like what, a year and a half ago, nobody gives a shit. I think it's going to bomb. I think it should bomb because they've been too greedy for too long now. And I'm heavily like considering taking a AMD GPU next time I upgrade. The only reason why I have the last 3 cars that I had were NVIDIA is because I just got really good deals on them. You know, I built my like actual like high-end computer in 2019 2019. With that being said, that was like right before the pandemic. The prices were at the lowest they ever been for hardware before all the prices, skyrocketed. And then I had a steal of a deal from a guy that's local that I bought a 3080 Ti for $600 when everybody was selling them for like $1,400.
Oh, dang. So you got a 3080 Ti?
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's
nice.
The only reason why I do have it is because it was a good deal.
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't just go and pay $1,200 for a GPU. Like, no way. There's no reason to do that. It is stupid. PC gaming used to be something that anybody can do. Now it's like this.
It's like
unnecessarily
a gigantic entry fee. That's why I don't have a rig, and I want one. It's hard to get into.
It's sad. It is sad, and that's one of the main reasons why I want it to flop. I think it's getting way too much out of control.
Yeah,
the hardware is being pushed while the software is way ahead, and there's this discrepancy. Like they're trying to run, they used to say like, oh, the 3090 is going to be able to run 8K. No, it can't. Like it can, technically. It can spit you 5 frames per second. Does anybody play games at 5 frames per second? No.
Yeah.
Because it's not realistic. You can play point and click adventures on a 3090. Yeah, great. Look at this point and click adventure in 8K. Nobody cares. That's
what they were showing with this 3090 Super, I guess, was 8K under here. That I forget it, 60 honestly, frames a second or something.
But that's another thing that you got to be careful, especially with hardware like releases in the gaming space. Never trust whatever they release.
Yeah,
it is almost never ever exactly what it was.
You got to see actual play tests of this stuff
for sure. Yeah.
Do you have time to hit community questions with me, or do you gotta go?
I have like 5 minutes. I'm just like not feeling good. I gotta go take medicine and I gotta knock out. But yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I wish I could stay on longer. I've been feeling like crap.
The audio listeners are now very angry with you. Just kidding.
I will try to speak more softly.
Let's go ahead and head into those. We've just got 3 community questions. There are a few other things, but we'll head over to these. We've got Aaron Metz is asking, what makes you decide what you stream or play, and why don't you just stream instead of make clips? I just copied and paste.
Is that a question for both of us?
I guess. Yeah, I stream, but I haven't streamed here recently or made clips from streams, so I don't know.
I personally, I do it because I enjoy it. my community is actually very laid back. I am something that you watch if you just want to doze off, right? I'm not super high, obnoxious energy. I don't do that. I don't like doing that. I want to make
I
a
don't admit those faces you
laid-back.
make, man. I don't know.
I mean, the faces I
Kurgle
make-
faces.
yeah. I mean, those are special, but I don't do it. I don't know. My approach is I want to make an experience for viewers that's laid back enough to where they don't have to like constantly like be zoned in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I used to be. Right. I used to be super high energy. I used to stream like FPS games, and it was draining me.
I remember.
I was not enjoying it. I wasn't enjoying it. It's not that I wasn't enjoying. I was enjoying. I was getting way too frustrated.
It's because you're not being yourself quite as much. You're being like, you know what I mean? Like a high energy version of yourself.
I am usually high energy in real life, but I noticed that my high energy is not enjoyable high energy, right?
Okay, gotcha.
I used to get like very frustrated. I used to curse a lot, just get really negative, and I kind of just had to have a moment of like, what am I doing, right? And the reason why I stream the games that I stream and I make the clips that I make, to get to the question, is because I think it's something that somebody can look at for like 30 seconds if it's a clip, have a laugh, and move on with their day, right? I don't want you to have to like look through 20 of my videos and be like, I gotta follow this series to know what happens next. Like, that's not my goal. So simply put, I like to make enjoyable, laid back content that you can still be actively engaged in if you want to.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's good. What makes you decide what you stream? I can answer for me real quick. Literally just whatever I want to play. That's it. I sometimes ask the community, like, hey, is there something you want to see? But I like to do new releases. I also like to do other, just whatever I want to play type of thing. So that's my answer.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit more complicated because, and I'm not going to expand on it too much, but essentially I used to play semi-professionally in esports, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, those games were my life, right? For decades. I mean, for decades. When I say for decades, I mean I've been playing games since I was like 5. So for 2 decades, all I've been playing is competitive games. So when the time came for me to shift towards this other content, now I'm playing Dark Souls 1 for the first time ever in my life. Even though I've seen a bunch of people stream it and stuff, to me, it was just prioritizing my backlog, looking at like 40, 50, 60 games, however many I have in the backlog, and saying like, I really want to play this. Is this something that's cool to stream that I think people will engage with? Yes. Okay, I'll stream that, and it's going to go up in priority. If it's lower in priority, I might, record it offline and do my Let's Play series for that game. So yeah, that's a simple answer for it.
Yeah, you like to do series, right? When you're streaming, typically, right? You don't do one-offs very often.
Yeah, for one-offs, I usually do it offline. Like the indie games and stuff like that. I think there's an opportunity to do it, but I like to do, when I stream, I like to do sessions where people can like sit back. It's like
that makes sense.
movie, right?
Yeah.
I don't like to do like 40-minute streams or an hour streams. But yeah, it's either like offline recording, create clips from that, streaming, whatever I think is going to be interesting for my community, and then making clips out of that.
Right on. We've also got Xenion 137 said, will Starfield bring back new players this year?
I've just seen some news about an update, and to plainly put your question into an answer is maybe. They're definitely going to see more growth because they're going to, expand the mod support and the creator hub on Steam, and probably the Steam Workshop is going to have a lot more traction. So I'm sure Starfield's going to grow. Me personally, I saw an announcement, or like a big news, like, oh, Starfield, new content, this and that. I couldn't care enough to click the link. I just saw Starfield updates.
Yeah.
And it didn't spark this fire in me, like, oh, are they actually fixing the game? To me, the game is so far gone at this point, in my opinion. And that's why I always say, like, this is my opinion. Don't get offended because I have an opinion. If you enjoy the game, I love that you enjoyed the game. I wish you enjoyed the game for many thousand hours. I just can't stand it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Now, I'll keep up on the news because A, the podcast, B, I like to report on the news. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm writing about it, so I like to keep up with it, but I'm at that point too where I don't care. However, I do think they have a long-term plan for this game. I do think that they're not just going to, let their money go. This was I forget the exact crazy number of cost of development, but I see them supporting this game for a while. Lots of updates. I see it turning into a Cyberpunk situation where we get a massive expansion, a big update, people return, people care again. It gets better. Maybe even Sea of Thieves type of deal where people crapped on it at first and they come back around. Like you get all these crazy updates and now it's fun. So that's all I've got to say about it. We've also got Rim193 says, what is your favorite retro platforms and games from the 90s?
Huh, that's a good question because I was born in late 90s. I didn't have a lot of consoles. And I would say that most like iconic one for me, has to be PlayStation 1.
That would have been 99, so that counts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be PlayStation 1. Well, I guess PlayStation, but which is earlier, but PlayStation 1, I feel like I have the most vivid memories, and I never played it in the 90s. That's the thing, right? I played it early 2000s.
Yeah.
So,
same.
From actual experience, like what I think is the coolest or what I enjoyed the most, PlayStation 1.
Cool. What about games?
In Eastern Europe, it was a lot of competitive stuff. Again, it's just that it has to be something with my people. We like to my country loves sports, and anything that's competitive, like it just goes. So we've really just played fighter games. I believe I didn't have the console, so when I would go over to friend's house, we would play like one game, right?
Yeah. I didn't have one till way later. We were poor and always way behind on everything. So through the 90s, we were behind on all. I think the first console I got when it was relatively new was the N64, and it was still maybe 8 months after it came out. Got the GameCube 2 years before the Wii came out, and got the Wii the day it came out. So that was like my first, and that was obviously much later at that point.
Yeah.
But I guess my answer for 90s, probably Sega Saturn would probably be my favorite. Maybe Super Nintendo. I really like the Sega Saturn. I got one of those as a sort of hand-me-down. I played Tomb Raider on it. All kinds of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I love the Saturn. I've got one now that I'm waiting to mod at some point so I can access all the games, but it's too expensive to try to collect for at this point. But yeah, I think probably that. And favorite games, I don't know. From the 90s, I really like the game Gimmick. Mr. Gimmick on NES is one of my favorite. I think it's a 10 out of 10 platformer. It was it actually didn't come out in the US, so in Japan it's just called Gimmick on the Famicom.
Oh yeah, it's Gimmick or Mr. Gimmick.
Yeah, it had both names, and in Europe it was called Mr. Gimmick. So we didn't get it here at all. But I played that much later, and I think that's a pretty fun one. We actually got to rent a Famicom from our local video store, so it was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I love fighting games. So Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, obviously Pokemon Red, Pokemon Crystal, all that stuff. I was a handheld guy growing up because they were cheaper.
Man, I miss so many video games. People hear that I never play Pokemon and they want to like hang me.
Oh god, yeah. For good reason. Well, with that said, that wraps up the community questions. So we will go ahead and wrap up the show for this week. But it's been an awesome episode, and we're not even able to hit all the news. So much has happened, so much craziness. So if you're watching this, we definitely appreciate it, and we'll be back again next week. I think we're talking about switching to days, or my buddy Lay maybe joined the